Hi there and welcome to C&W Dirt Bike Adventures. This is just me and my buddy loading our videos for ourselves, and if you stumble on this channel and watch those videos, you've probably seen that we're not good riders and I'm definitely not a good mechanic, but I want to give back. I've learned a lot from the internet and it's really helped me fix a lot of things, but I see there's a great shortage on information on the YZ250X. I believe it's because it's so similar to the YZ250, but it's in that awkward space where there are a lot of small differences. Like for instance, the friction plates on the clutch friction plates are made up of a completely different compound. And it's subtle differences like that that make a big difference. Anyway, so I'll just show you what I've learned until somebody else comes along and does a better job at it, and then I'm out and I'll be learning from them. So what we have here in this book is what the power valve system looks like. But the actual power valves are those two little thingamabobs in there. But this is not the graph we want to look at. Usually when, when you, all the pictures that come up and all the graphs that come up on that mod that we're talking about is actually on a different page. Now this here is the reason why it's called the power valve mod, or sometimes the governor mod. It's the same thing. It's not, these are not the same things, but the mod is, they're referring to the same modification. This is the governor. It says YPVS governor. It's a Yamaha, Yamaha power valve system governor. And this is where the actual mod is going to take place. It's a very simple mod, but I couldn't find a single person that made a video or showed it, so here I am. I've learned a lot of things of YouTube, so I'm just going to pay it forward a little bit later. But right there, that spring determines the tension, obviously. And as far as I understand it now, the less tension on the spring, the later your power band kicks in, or the, I don't know, I think you get a little bit more bottom end and a little bit less of a snap, a little bit less of an intense power band. Now what we're going to do is we are going to lessen the tension on this spring over here. Now you see you have a thrust bearing over here. Number 7 says thrust bearing. Oh, you can't see that. Says there's your thrust bearing. Now the thrust bearing has two washers that run against those little against the thrust bearing. But you'll see there's a collar as well. Now the collar is exactly the same size as the thrust bearing, so you can actually theoretically remove number 6, the thrust or the washer, and it will thrust against this collar, and that means that that tiny amount that you've removed puts less tension on the spring, and that'll affect your power band. And I've read about a lot of people that did it, and apparently it makes a big difference. So we'll see. It's an easy enough mod to do. Now your bike doesn't generally look like this on the side unless you've done quite a bit of stripping, but I thought that the power valve modification was going to take place in this initial place I showed you in the head, but or in the cylinder head, but it's not. It's actually in the left side, oh sorry, on the right side crankcase. Power valve is in this, the governor sits inside of this part of the casing here. So we have your clutch supposed to be in there, and that's your kickstarter that's supposed to be in there. So this is pretty much, you see there's where you put your oil in. This is pretty much what your right side crankcase looks like from the side. Now you can see this little actuator arm coming out of the governor system here. Now that actually links up to the actuator on in the head with the actual power valves. So let's turn this thing around here. Alright, and inside we have our governor, our YPVS governor, Yamaha power valve system governor. Now what we're going to do is we need to actuate this arm a little bit. So it just allows this governor to come out. So I'm going to push it out a little bit and then just shimmy it out. Don't use any force. Alright, you saw what I did there. See that? What I did is I pulled it back and it grooves, it slots in here. And when you pull it up like that, it actually pulls this thing up, and then it gives it enough space to actually just shimmy out, or shimmy out, or whatever you call. Alright, so now we have the governor here, and you'll see that we have two thrust bearings. This is a thrust bearing, that is a thrust bearing there, and it's got a collar, washer, thrust bearing, washer, washer, thrust bearing, washer, collar, spring. So we need to get this out. Now, it's a little bit funny. They show in the book. Let me get the book quickly. Take a look at this ninja. He one-hands it. He compresses that spring with one hand, and with the other one takes it out takes a pin out with the long nose, or needle nose pliers. I'm not capable of doing that. I have fairly strong hands. I can't do it. So I'm going to show you a different technique that worked for me. To make a correction, that wasn't a ninja, that was a samurai, because they're Japanese, not Chinese. Anyway, so that guy just takes the thing like that, compresses it, and pulls it out with the needle nose pliers. Now you can do it, but actually let's show both ways. Let's see if I've got enough strength left. Let's use a rag and then compress it and see if we can do it. All right, here we go. Oh my, that is uncomfortable. I kind of see it as a challenge now. All right, here we go. You can do it. These small hands of mine are not really helping either. Okay, let's go. Let's go. No, I'm gonna hurt something. I don't want to end up damaging something. So here we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the palm part of my hand. Be careful, because when you push down and you come back up and this little part of your skin gets caught there, it's going to eat it. So also another thing is you don't want to damage your table. Ooh, I see I've already done that. So just collect some rag underneath it, so that you have a little bit of a buffer, and then you take it like that, push it down with a little bit of your body weight, and then you can pull it out. There we go. See, a lot easier. Well, relatively speaking, easier. Now this thing falls apart like a cheap suit. Let's get some more rag going over here. So don't be scared if it does. You can just refer back to the manual, or I'll walk you through it. But just take it apart carefully. Let those little ball bearings fall out, or balls, or whatever you want to call them. So now we have this little shaft here with I'm just going to take it apart like that. Actually, I'm going to take it apart all the way up to this. Now you see this little bearing here? It's a thrust bearing. This washer runs against it. This is the one that we're going to be removing. And this is the thickness that makes all the difference, according to everybody on the internet that's done this modification. So now you'll see that the collar has the same surface area as the washer. So in theory, the collar will work just as well against the thrust bearing. Not 100% happy with it, but I doubt it will make or do too much damage, I suppose, or maybe even any at all. So just put the whole thing back together again, and you must make sure that you have collar, thrust, let's use the pen, collar, thrust bearing, washer, washer, thrust bearing, washer, collar. And then we're going to put this thing back again. Let's put these little steel balls back in. Now when you flip it over to put it on there, the balls are going to fall out, so hold these things in place, otherwise they're going to fall out, and just push it down like that into the hole, flip it over, and we are ready to insert our pin again using the same technique the other way around. So now I kind of push it down to find that hole there. I just want to see, okay, I can see the hole is about there, so I just need to line it up with this. And then I'm going to do the same thing in reverse. I'm going to take, it should be okay with the fingers, I'm going to push it down, line it up, push it down, get the pin in, there we go. Oops, a little bit far, Don't force anything. Oh man, now my OCD wants me to center it. Okay, there we go. And there it is. Now we're going to put it back. Now usually the goal when you take a bike apart is to put it back together again without having extra bits, but the whole point of this exercise is to end up with this bit extra for that governor modification or the power valve modification. Alright, so now we need to put this back. So what we're going to do is we're going to raise this up so that it will catch this groove over here. We're going to gently insert it to that groove and put the whole thing back nice and smooth. There we go, jimmies in nice and easy, and make sure it turns freely. And there you have it. Bob's your uncle.